On this episode of Lapeef, Let's Talk.
The problem, JR, is that nobody can disagree without it being attacked. Nobody can give context to how they feel or what their experiences are without somebody else feeling attacked. And that's the problem, because how can you really have a conversation if you can't really truly express how you feel from the other side of the coin or the other narrative? It's not one way, and it's never going to be one way. That's the whole idea behind the conversation, is to understand why somebody else feels differently. Don't mean that they right, don't mean that they wrong, but at the same time, in the same way that you don't want to be invalidated as to how you feel and be able to express how you feel and what your experiences are and how that shaped you to be the way that you are, you also have to allow another person, even if it doesn't align with your principles and the way in which you see things, you got to allow them to be able to communicate and express what their experiences are and why they feel the way they feel also. And if at any point that gets cut off because somebody else gets bothered or offended, then the conversation is dead, because it's an inability to be able to communicate at that point.
Welcome to Lapeef, Let's Talk. And if you're just joining in, we're on our third topic right now, which is, are black women unhappy? Are black women unhappy? I think I'm going to go ahead and kick this one off. I'm glad we got an even panel here. We got 3 women and 3 men, so this should be very interesting. I know we did a podcast maybe about a month and a half ago, and we discussed that term, angry black women, and I didn't like it, but fast forward a month and a half into now, I've been speaking like with a lot of different women and just hearing conversations and hearing men discuss women and hearing women discuss their issues, and I'm starting to believe that there are a lot of black women that are unhappy and angry, but the topic is unhappy. And the reason why I say unhappy is because even women that are in marriages and relationships, you only see the good on social media. But I unfortunately know some things that's behind closed doors, and I know that a lot of women are unhappy, but they want to put on this facade, they want to put on this image as though everything is going good. So I believe that there are a lot of black women that are unhappy. I'm going to turn it over to the panel. I'm going to start with you, Anton. Do you feel like black women are unhappy?
I'm gonna defer to Tawana. I want to, because I know Tawana was a little more reserved on the last topic or whatever. So
I wasn't reserved. I wasn't asked
want
any
to do.
questions. I wasn't asked anything, so I just stayed quiet and let everybody else speak. I would
No,
have
it's all good. That's the
gladly
moderator.
gave my opinion. I disagree with most of y'all, so I was like, maybe I'm on the roll
No,
today. I'm
it's
like
the
D Nix
moderator's
today.
fault.
I'm like, right. He didn't ask me, so I just stayed quiet. But black women. I mean, you know how I feel about this. This is ridiculous. That's how I feel about it. But let me speak to it, I guess, since you asked this crazy question. Because let's say this. People in general are unhappy. It's not about a color. It's not about a race. It's unhappy white marriages, Asian marriage. I know Hispanic.
But I want you to focus on. I want you to focus
marriages
on
in
black
general.
women though on this.
Okay,
This
we
particular
can focus
topic.
on black women, but I want to make sure that I remove that emphasis as if black women are the only people experiencing unhappy relationships and marriage. And then you need to change your circle is what I will say. Because why are you hanging with so many people unhappy in their life? Like, what's wrong with you? Because I don't even really see that as a problem. I have a lot of people in my life that are happy. If majority of the people are complaining to you, if a majority of the women in your circle are complaining to you, then I feel like that's the circle issue. It's not really a representation of black women in general. Now, I do agree that there are a lot of issues and challenges that black women face on a daily that could also translate into this unhappy and angry phase. But I don't believe that overall black women are unhappy in their lives. And I don't believe that that represents the majority of us. I do believe that there are some people who have some difficulties and some challenges, and you have a point when you say, hey, and maybe on top of that, also being a black woman can also give you some additional challenges that may make it a little heavier. And that's my take on it. I don't believe that it's a black woman thing. And I know you say let's focus on black women, but I'm just saying, like, yeah, maybe that's your circle. You maybe can expand your circle and see that there are women who really have, great lives and are happy in their lives and can present you a different narrative and a different perspective. Because I just I don't agree with that. So yeah, that's just my opinion.
All right, I appreciate that. I mean, unfortunately, my circle is black people that I work with. You know, I have a few white people here and there, but I'm just speaking on my experience and what I've been hearing lately, and especially like some of the things that I wouldn't even be surprised. Like there are a lot of people that are unhappy marriages, which is kind of crazy. You know, they won't tell they husband,
Right.
but they will come to work and they will talk about their business to everybody else. So I just think that there's a lot of unhappy people. But again, we're here to have these tough conversations. Um, Lauricia, do you feel like black women are unhappy?
I have to agree with Tawana. I get tired of this emphasis on black women. Can black women be magic like all the time? And that's why we get unhappy because we got to be on point all the time. Like white women are unhappy too. You know, they just tuck their stuff in and hide it better, right? They don't blab it out and talk about it to everybody. But I do agree that we aren't happy. We aren't happy with ourselves, with decisions we've made, right? And we can change all of that. So it's not like black women are stuck in this position forever. We can change it. We can come out, like we got a female vice president. If that don't motivate your ass to get up and do something, then but I don't know what's gonna do it. Like
Well, Michelle Obama should have gave him some motivation.
they probably, it was like, yeah, Michelle, but she his wife. You know what I'm saying? So come on, like, we got a first husband now. Let's get it together.
Capri, are black women unhappy?
I guess I will kind of piggyback off of Tawana, Lucia, what they said. The narrative of black women being unhappy, it gets old and it's tiring, you know, it almost leads black women, to feel like nothing could bother them, nothing, they can't be unhappy, they can't be, anything less than weak, or, it's the narrative is old and it's tiring, and it's the thing is, oftentimes even the narrative of black women don't get married. I know majority of my friends are married, and though they are not they're not the sample size of black women. However, as Tawana said, maybe you need to expand your circle of friends, because there's plenty of black women who are very happy with themselves, happy in a relationship, happy by themselves. You're speaking to one. I'm very happy. I wake up with a smile on my face every day, and I get to it. I do what I need to do. I mean, if I want to, get on a plane and go to Hawaii tomorrow, I can very well do that and be happy there, just as I will be happy in California. So I think the narrative of black women being unhappy is 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 old, is played, and we need to start changing the narrative by talking about, why are black women happy? Why are they doing the things that they're doing? Have you seen what happened in Georgia today? Who was that driven by? A lot of people that look like us, black women particularly. So I feel like we are not spending enough time to have those conversations about black women strength, the things that they're accomplishing in our communities, how they're raising our children, how educated they are. Though that should be the topic, instead of the topic of us being unhappy. And I know this is your show, and this and this is the topic today, but
Mm-hmm.
I really would like for us collectively, and a lot of times I would like black men to be supportive in the more positive narratives and topics that surround us as women.
Hmm. I I appreciate each and every last one of you guys' thoughts on that, and you know I agree to a certain degree, but this is a show, and I feel like as though we don't have those tough conversations, and when the tough conversations come, I feel like women want to say, well, why are we having this talk? You know, why can't we just focus on this? Why can't we focus on that? So you mean to tell me that you guys don't see any women that are black women that are unhappy?
But
So,
unhappy about what
so here's the thing.
exactly?
That's what I'm saying. So here's the thing. Can I be unhappy tomorrow about something that happened? Yes, but am I an unhappy person? And why do we get labeled that way? And that's the problem, because there is other people, like everyone goes through something every once in a while. And it's like, oh, so now I'm an unhappy woman because my life at that moment, I had a problem with something that happened. Like, I don't really get that perspective. Yes, I do think people go through challenges. Like, I mean, I'd be upset in one instance, and then maybe like for the next several months, I'm happy. But like when I get judged because I was upset that one time, and it goes back to what Capri said. It's like, why can't we be vulnerable? Why can't we be like, why can't we just be sad one day? And why do we have to get labeled as unhappy or angry or miserable? Like, why is it such a label, a stigma?
Why can't we
Like,
just be women?
why can't
Why
we
can't
just
we
be
just be
going through
women,
something that day?
humans,
Why are we
just
just
going
human?
through everyday
Why are
We
you
life?
got all
shaking
these
your
emotions.
head?
Hey, I'm feeling attacked right now. I'm just asking the
I
questions.
will just say this. I feel like I work in solution. So if you bring a problem to me, I will hope that you would provide solutions to the problem that you're bringing. So you can have a collective thought and buy-in to how we could change the narrative about black women being unhappy.
True, true.
Anton, are black women unhappy, and can you um, address the women on the panel as far as why do they have to be labeled unhappy? Why can't they just be
Um,
women?
I'm not gonna say y'all lying, but I think that there's a large fabrication of the truth in an attempt to remain positive and to paint yourselves in a more positive light than that's really true. And I'm just gonna keep it a bean. I'm gonna keep it 100 because, like, okay, I'll give you a few different examples. I deal with women of all races and creeds and heights and weights and whatever. The only race of women that I ever see react so extra and so explosively and so matter of factly, and they will snatch your dreams out and all of this other type of stuff, is black women, yo. And that's just real. Like their level of reaction or their heightened reaction to even the most simple things or the things in which you would feel as though you could have an objective conversation is so much more heightened from black women than I see from any other race of women. And so when you take that into consideration, when you take into consideration when I'm in these rooms, right, and I'm looking at these comments and I'm looking at the different reactions, every single room that's created by a black woman is something that has to do with toxic masculinity. It's something to do with why aren't black women protected. It's always an issue. So if you emphasize why we can't emphasize all of the greatness that comes along with celebrating you, then I would say, why don't you guys do it for yourself more often than validating or requiring other people to do it on your behalf? Like, why is the narrative and the conversation have to be shifted when the conversation and the narrative that's being perpetuated by your own sisters is completely different from what you're advocating for and highlighting for us to do for you? So my conversation is not necessarily as it relates to how can we be solutions oriented. I'm just going to deal straight with the question that's posed on the panel. I don't get the level of reactions that I get from other women of other races as I do from women that is the same color as me. That's just facts. That's real. That's real life.
Okay, I
Before hold on,
agree.
hold on. Before the women speak, let me give B next opportunity, and then we can go ahead and try to put this all together. Nix, are black women unhappy?
I don't know. I want to say I'm unsure, but I do have some perspectives where Capri, you had mentioned about this narrative, right? And I think that over the course of at least most of my life, I could say that black women are kind of portrayed as being unhappy. I think about like three different aspects of women that have children. We've seen it in media or even just people we know that like I had a baby because I felt unhappy. So this was the only way I knew that I would be able to feel happy by having a child, not being with the man, but just because I felt empty and this was going to fill that void of unhappiness. Or when a woman is promiscuous, where they have multiple partners, where we say like, oh well, the father wasn't around, so it led to a level of unhappiness and a void that wasn't filled for that woman as she was able to grow up. Or we seen like with a woman that is like that's a boss, that's career oriented, and then what's the narrative? Oh, they're throwing themselves into their career because really they're unhappy, so this is a way to get through this outlet. And I'm not saying it's necessarily true, but those are the narratives that are placed out there. I'm not saying that those aren't real narratives, but it creates like it's used as this broad brush that is stroked on behalf of all black women, that black women have babies in order to feel that need of unhappiness, or they mess around with a lot of partners out of unhappiness, or they throw themselves into their jobs out of unhappiness. So I'm not saying it's not real. I can't give you a percentage of how factual that is, but that is something that's out there. And I think that just I don't know. That's all I can really say on it. That that's something that those are examples why I think this conversation, these topics come up, because those are the examples that are portrayed of why black women are unhappy. At least in those, it's other it's other settings, but those are kind of like three prominent ones that we hear in media on how it's portrayed through movie, through film, through even social media. So I'm not. I think there is an aspect out there of black women that may fit into those categories. I'm not saying it's you all, but I don't know. The thing is, I can't say it's not true, but I can't say how significant it is either, how prevalent it is. I'm not going to say like, oh, that represents 90% of black women. That storyline. I don't know, but that's what's out there. So Capri, I know you mentioned that that's the perception, and then what do you have? Like the black girl magic, right? In order to combat that, but then now you have the narrative now becomes these two major extremes. You have this exemplar woman that is bossing up and doing everything she's supposed to do. Then you have this unhappy, very sad, very low self-esteem black woman, and you never hear about no one in the middle, right? So the thing is, those are usually the two narratives that you hear in media. Hey, you have this rock star woman that's all things, and then you have this black woman that's unhappy, that is nothing.
And a lot of things that you have touched on is it also gives not only is it negative that black women can't throw themselves into their careers, that they're militant, everything. This is what other races do too. And Anton, you talking about how black women respond to certain things. Okay, not every black woman is about to snatch your life, get it in your face, roll the neck, raise their voice. Sometimes I'm the only person of color sitting at the table. And I have very how critical and difficult and challenging conversations with people who do not look like me. And I'm not about to snatch nobody's life. I'm not going to be rolling my neck, rolling my eyes, cussing, and carrying on. Not every black woman, acts that way. And I'm sorry that you haven't had a better experience where black women have effectively communicate with you
No, I
about
have.
rolling their.
I'm not saying that it's all women. I'm saying that when it does happen, it only happens from women that are black. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's all been negative or anything like that. I'm just saying that I have never, and I've dealt with a significant amount of white women and a significant amount of Asian women and Spanish women, and they don't play like that in my experiences, honestly.
I guess my question is, because of their communication,
Oh.
does that make those women unhappy?
They probably the most unhappy. Like just because they not vocal, they're happy. So because I'm animated, I can't be happy in life. See, the thing is that's the difference. Just because I am animated and I react to something you said, that has absolutely nothing to do with me being unhappy. That is not the same thing. And also, a woman who is super quiet and meek and does not mean she's happy. It means that she could mean the absolute opposite. And so what happens is Black women, because we're vocal, because we're passionate, because we're all these things, we become the face of everything demonized. So now we are too loud. So therefore you ain't happy. That don't mean anything. That is not the same thing.
Usually when people scream and shout and they snatching dreams out the air and all of that, usually that's a reflection of some level of anger. And
I don't care who judges me. So that's how
levels though.
Yeah, that's just.
I believe that, and
I just feel that that's because you want to compare me to your white counterparts and your other counterparts, and you feel the need to make me feel like I am. That's what you say.
No accountability.
To make me feel like I have to measure up to that person in order for you to see me as a human and to see me as something different. That is so incredibly dismissive of.
You know what's so interesting though?
That's
whenever people call out a Black guy on something or whatever like that, we just deal with whatever is the conversation is. We don't compare ourselves to white men or all of these other things as it relates to being able to have the conversation. And that's another reflection. It's like, why is it all the time? Like, it's almost like, why can't we talk about what's in front of us? Why is it always a pushing it on somebody else or a comparison? I'm saying that
you said no other woman.
No.
That you are associated with.
I'm saying
the
that
other
this
women
is my
of other
experiences.
Were not like that.
You can't say that my experiences is not my experiences. They're real.
I'm gonna continue.
They're valid.
Call me unhappy then, because guess what?
I'm
gonna be who I am.
You're not even able to.
And if you feel that I'm unhappy, then you know what? Keep on going.
You're not even able to have an objective conversation with somebody.
That's objective.
Or in most instances, without somebody, usually the woman, the Black woman, getting emotional about the conversation and not being able to stay on subject. That's another reflection of it.
You said this is objective. This is objective.
Hey, Nix, how do you feel about what's happening right now? You agree with Anton or Tawana?
I agree with what I say. Yeah.
I'll tell you what. Listen. We've seen it. We've seen it countless times on this show. And when somebody say, Anton, you trash, or Anton, I hate your narrative, or Anton, you so stupid, or whatever like that, I'll be like, that's just me. Like I own it. Whatever it is, I defend myself or whatever, but I never change the narrative and say, well, if I was a white man, you wouldn't be like, I don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's me, you dealing with me specifically. Let's deal with the issues as it relates to me. I don't switch the narrative in order to try to make my point.
think you're trying to talk over me, and everyone heard you bring up the comparison, not just me. So y'all can all stay silent. Y'all know he brought up the comparison. He's the one who talked about how he has dealt with women of other races, and they are not like Black women. So if you want to bring up the comparison, you damn right I'm going to address it. That is the insult. Now,
exactly.
If you want to talk about Black women and you want to talk about how we react, cool. But if you want to insult us, then you're going to hear my backlash.
So where's the insult?
And if you think I'm unhappy because you think that's on you.
Hold on, no.
That's on you.
I'm not about to shift the narrative, Nix. At what point did I insult anybody by describing what my experiences are?
When you compare us to any other race,
that's another reflection.
But it's okay for you to
being
compare.
Emotional and taking it personal. I didn't even pose the question. If you want me to answer it honestly, and then we want to have an honest conversation about it, that's what we should do. But we adults, it's no reason for somebody to get emotional. I ain't call nobody out their name. I didn't necessarily say anything about anybody as it pertains to their personal characteristics. I described my experience, and then you took it personal. I can't help that.
I
And
like
then
how
y'all
you
said,
try to
and then
paint these
hold on,
narratives
and
to
then
people.
Capri says,
I don't.
and then
Capri
Capri
who
said,
believes this
Capri,
mess? I don't
Capri
want to.
said,
Don't
Capri
talk for me.
said,
Don't
why
talk
can't
for
we
me.
have the conversation based off of A, B, and C, for example, how awesome black women are, and that's a valid conversation. But how can I even have the conversation if I can't even say what my real life experiences are, and then listen to you say what your real
It was
life
my
experiences
turn to
are
speak.
for us to have a conversation? If it turned emotional and it turned into a debate, it's no longer a conversation, and that's why people be saying angry black woman, because it's no longer
You
a
didn't get
conversation.
interrupted
It
when
turns
you
emotional.
spoke. You did not get interrupted. We
Well,
let you
I don't
say
know. I
that
don't even
entire
associate
speech.
like really angry and unhappy as being both the same emotion, though, either.
Because I
But
can
JR,
be
I
angry
was
at what you
going to
just
ask,
said,
like,
but that don't mean I'm
can
unhappy.
we
Right.
can we contextualize
But
a little
nobody
bit?
said
And I think
And
anything
don't
Capri,
nobody
you
personal
had mentioned
about
this
you.
earlier.
and don't nobody
In what
mean
setting are we talking about unhappiness?
Nobody
Are
said
we
nothing
speaking
personal
in the
about her.
aspect of life?
nobody needs you to define what an adult is. I could care less. I guess maybe everybody else care about
Hey,
what
JR,
you
Feel like
think
we
it
in
JR,
high
is.
school,
I
man.
could
This
care
is
less.
so trash.
Can we put this into context, JR?
I
When we
could care
talk
less.
about in the aspect of relationships, in life, in
Okay.
career, or in
I agree
family,
with that.
I think that this is very broad also. So can we
Okay.
contextualize this based on
Yes.
the
Are you
situation
saying
at hand?
people are
Maybe we can
unhappy in relationships?
Relationships.
Well, here's the thing.
Well, I mean, I say what I said. I mean,
Yeah.
Go ahead. Who was
it's just
talking?
one of those
Go ahead.
like.
Capri was about to
Go
say
ahead.
something. So I'll
Go ahead, Capri.
I would say, as far as relationships though, I still don't think it should be demonizing black women to say all black, majority of the black women, their relationships are unhappy and can't. I just feel like that's just too broad of just subjecting black women to this narrative that we're unhappy in relationships. There's plenty of people who are happy, and I'm not, and I believe this because I'm saying this, but I just don't think that black women should be deemed as these people who enter in relationships are unhappy. I just don't think that's a realistic view to say. And like I said, I'm more about focusing on the things when it comes, and I don't want to say that we're going to ignore that there aren't people who are unhappy, but we're women, we're human. People have moments of unhappiness. Now, those that choose to stay in that mindset, that's something different. But to put the black women labeled as unhappy in relationships, that's where I have to draw the line. That's where I'm concerned.
Well, I guess
I
also
guess
we can look at it
I'm wondering now.
because,
They
question
saying
it.
more unhappy than like we're unhappy in more than others. I don't know. We're more unhappy in our
Well, let's do
relationship
this.
than anyone else. I don't
Let's do
really
this because the
get
thing
what that
is,
means. Yeah.
the question itself is really a yes or no question. Hey, are black women unhappy? No. Okay, yes. But if we're staying true with this question that's being asked that women are unhappy, I guess what would be the root causes out of that, whatever that group, whatever percentage that is, why would black women be unhappy? For those that are unhappy, what would be the root causes of why those particular black women are unhappy in relationships?
But
I guess if we still staying true to relationships.
But I still will go back to, this is not a black woman thing. This is a woman, a human thing. How many women are in relationships who are unhappy? Now,
Right.
if you want to focus on black women, that's still a generalization on black women. We come in all different walks of life.
Well, like I'm not trying to.
There's different reasons.
Well,
Like when I posed
I
this
mean,
question, like it wasn't to be an attack on black women. It's just that, if I'm not mistaken, majority of our
Well, the
circle,
why I think you're asking.
like our friends are black,
those
right? Just
particular
asking
women
why.
impacted, right?
It's just trying to kind of dive into it to get people thinking to try to understand as to why we may feel that way. It's not an attack,
Yeah.
but I still think that we have to have these tough conversations.
Well,
That's
I
what
didn't feel an attack from the question.
Yeah.
I felt like the question I just don't agree with that Black women are unhappy. I said no. I know that, the men said, yeah. I feel like, no, that's not a true statement. And I expressed the reasons why I felt that wasn't a true statement.
Because at the same
Right.
token, I can make an argument and say that I honestly believe that a lot of Black men are unhappy.
But you did say a lot. You said are Black women. So,
Well,
I mean, yes, are a lot of Black women. Are you saying that, or are you saying some Black women are unhappy? Because then, of course, those are true statements. But
JR,
are Black women unhappy?
the problem, JR, is that nobody can disagree without it being attacked. Nobody can give context to how they feel or what their experiences are without somebody else feeling attacked. And that's the problem, because how can you really have a conversation if you can't really truly express how you feel from the other side of the coin or the other narrative? It's not one way, and it's never going to be one way. That's the whole idea behind the conversation, is to understand why somebody else feels differently. Don't mean that they right, don't mean that they wrong, but at the same time, in the same way that you don't want to be invalidated as to how you feel and be able to express how you feel and what your experiences are and how that shaped you to be the way that you are, you also have to allow another person, even if it doesn't align with your principles and the way in which you see things, you got to allow them to be able to communicate and express what their experiences are and why they feel the way they feel also. And if at any point that gets cut off because somebody else gets bothered or offended, then the conversation is dead, because it's an inability to be able to communicate at that point.